a while. It's been,
The broadcast is live.
and with that, we can get started.
Oh,
All
wow.
right. Here we are. Episode. This is not a cavern of chaos because it's not Friday. I just realized that.
This is a stalactite of chaos.
Yeah, this is a. I am snowed in, and I've sent out messages going, "Hey guys, what you doing?" I'm like,
Matter of fact, on Friday's show, Scott was like, we're going to be snowed in. I was like, that means Tim might be having a show.
yeah.
You're right.
I had a live
One
stream
day.
yesterday that went well, but I had everything I wanted to say done in 40 minutes, and then I hung out in 10 minutes too long. And I'm like, let it go. Nobody cares. But,
I was going to watch that today, but I never got to.
Yeah. No.
Or actually listen to it. I listen to all my YouTube stuff. I don't usually watch it.
Yeah.
I got 17 new subscribers. I don't know what the deal is. I think I kind of know who some are. So today is January 17th. I'm stowed in. My wife is at her mom's house because she couldn't make it home. It's so bad. I was like, hey guys, what are you doing? And these are the guys that answered. We got Mr. Jared Osborne over there. As you can see, he's plugging his website, jaredosborne.com. He's got his own channel.
All my links.
Yep. Has his own YouTube channel also. Plug yourself here for a minute before we get to Scott.
Here I am, jaredosborne.com. You go to the website, see all my links. You can find my YouTube channel there, some of my comics and artwork and fun stuff like that.
Yeah. Jared was with the Marvel Bullpen in the 90s, and he has carried on. Yes. And then down there, we've got Scott Connor. Scott has his own YouTube channel, though he does no material.
And video on it.
Oh, he's got a video up.
And it's concert footage.
There we go. There we
And
go.
it's probably not by anybody that you would actually expect. So,
All right. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself there, Scott.
what do you want to know?
I'm guessing the concert footage is by Michael Jackson, because I would not expect that.
It is not Michael Jackson, though. You are correct.
Okay, so how long you been in the comics, and some of your top comics, and some of the people in the comic book world you know for real?
Yeah. I got back into comics when I was in college. Stopped reading them all around about the age of, I don't know, 12, 13 or so, and got back into them when I was like 18. And some people I know lots of people, Tim.
I never got out of comics.
I've been lucky to meet a lot of my favorite creators. I've met Charles Vess, I've met Mike Kaluta, Harlan Ellison, Neil Gaiman, Mike Mignola, William Stout, Mark Schultz.
Now, these aren't people you just...
Sergio Aragones.
These aren't guys. Some of those you met at cons, and some you met in the real world. And tell everybody whose apartment you hung out with.
Oh, me and Charles Vess went to a convention in Framingham, Massachusetts, called Boscone. 2001, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And so we're getting ready to go back home after convention, and Charles turns to me and said, "You want to go visit Mike Kaluta in New York City?" Is this a trick question? Mike and Charles used to be roommates in New York City back in the 70s.
70s New York City. That must have been something in the comic book.
Yeah, when rent was like dirt cheap.
Yeah.
So we went and visited Mike, stayed overnight, and I was like the proverbial kid in the candy store. I was like, can't go to sleep because there's too much visual stimulus. All kinds of neat books and models and original artwork all over the place, and his video collection was a lot bigger than Tim's ever was, if that tells you anything.
Original artwork. Did you see what that Mike Zeck page sold for this week?
That was obscene.
Is that the one that went for millions? Like
$3 million.
Yeah.
For a Mike Zeck Secret Wars page, a half splash of Spider-Man in his new black uniform. Holy cow.
I wonder how much he originally sold that page for.
$300.
It was $200 or $300.
Yeah.
Jimmy Palmiotti, actually, I saw had an interesting idea. He was hoping there was, because with NFTs, non-fungible tokens, for those who don't know what they are, that's a new thing that was invented where you can buy a piece of digital art. And ownership of the art is kept track of by blockchain. So it's like let's just say, and Marvel's been some like Marvel or some place licensed it from Marvel. You could buy like I think they made I don't know like 1,000 copies of New Mutants 87 digital. They were, and they were each one was an NFT. So it's like you would own that one sort of copy digitally, and you can buy and sell it afterwards too. But one of the things is built into NFTs are the Marvel with every sale. Like let's just say you buy this NFT for $10. You then sell it for $100. Whoever the like Marvel gets a 3% cut, the NFT company gets a 3% cut, and maybe the artist gets a 3% cut. And Jimmy Palmiotti was just sort of speculating that if there was only some way to sort of link the original art to an NFT, that way Mike Zeck could actually get a cut of the $3 million. The problem is, artists are on the wrong end of the supply chain for escalating art prices.
Yeah, you'd have to have some kind of a contract to do that.
Right, you'd need a contract. That would be the problem.
Work for hire.
Like I said, an NFT, with an NFT, there's no contract. You buying that is the contract.
Right.
It's
a friend of mine
into the blockchain.
A friend of mine brought up a really good point I had considered about NFTs the other day. He said if they were really profitable and stable, that the porn industry would have already jumped all over them.
Well, seriously, they are. Yeah, seriously, they're always in the front of technology. Seriously, for real.
They are the first to capitalize monetarily on new technology.
Yeah,
just about every time.
For real. Yeah, I mean that's a real fact.
That's how VHS went out over beta. They found out that the tapes were cheaper to reproduce and manufacture mass quantities than Betamax.
Yeah, and they look like high def 8, so like there was no fuzz and stuff on them. The picture quality made it look like they were like in the room. It was really weird. But anyway, I had a stepdad that was a pervert. We'll just put it that way.
Betamax was a better format. The video quality was better.
There you go. Yeah. You got a question, Scott, before we trail off on the
Harlan was great. I got along fine with Harlan. I learned if you treat Harlan like a human being, he'll return it tenfold. You hear all these horror stories. No, I mean, you just treat Harlan like the way he needs to be treated, and he's fine. I had a good time with Harlan. Had some pretty interesting conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. If you're expecting some, horror story about he threw somebody down the elevator shaft, no, that's not the case at all.
At least Scott won't talk about it. He doesn't want to get thrown down an elevator shaft after all.
No, I think Stan Sakai is the guy that throws people down. No, I'm just kidding. Stan's like the nicest guy in the world. So.
I don't know, man. Anytime we like talk about creators or meeting them or hearing stories, I always want to tell that story where you used to be able to find it on YouTube of Jim Steranko talking about knocking the taste out of Bob Kane's mouth. I love that story so much.
Jim Steranko was taking some shots at Will Eisner on Twitter.
Oh yeah. Did you see his Twitter tirade about Eisner the other day, Tim?
Yeah.
No, I'm not on Twitter. I've opened up an account to see if I can find some stuff that's not like. Well, anyway, I'm going to give it another shot. Go ahead and tell the story.
Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah. Someone was asking Steranko because Steranko does a sort of Twitter, I guess you'd call it a show, where he just gets on and tweets on Sunday nights, and fans ask him questions and he answers them. And he tells about his history and comics history and what he knows. And someone asked him about Eisner. He's like, I think he's actually been asked about Eisner multiple times over the years. I don't know how long he's been doing the show now. It's been a while.
Now, let me just kind of interject here if people don't know. Steranko made a shitload of people like back in the 70s because he was doing the history of comics and interviewing people. So you think does this tie into it? I mean, I think he mentioned he interviewed him for that. But he said that what he did was this is what now I'm remembering what he said he did interview Eisner for the
for the history of comics. And then he interviewed some guys from the Eisner shop. And Eisner took credit for everything that the guys in the shop did. And the guys in the shop were not too happy about it.
I'm not surprised. It's a Bob Kane thing, man. That's wild. That's what
And
Bob Kane
Eisner
did.
also wouldn't tell him who was assisting him. He said he did everything himself when he was interviewing him for the history of comics.
Frank Miller was even his assistant there for a while, and Neil Adams, Eisner and Adams. And I remember, I mean, Frank Miller did this whole book of an interview with him and stuff, and talk. You know what I mean? He was still he was still a fan of him and stuff. So, you figured Miller would be the one to drop some dimes, if he was going to
shut you. I've never heard anyone say bad things about Eisner, but Steranko said he basically ran a sweatshop too.
I kind of wonder if that's where they came from. You know what I mean? Like that was like the 30s and 40s. I mean, Bob Kane understood contracts because his dad was a lawyer, or something.
If you look at who was actually treated well in comics in those days, they were from the same social class as the people running the comic companies. That's what it was.
Yeah,
they weren't Lower East Side poor people.
Yeah,
they were wasps from wherever.
Connecticut, usually.
Connecticut.
I cannot believe somebody's knocking. Y'all carry on for a minute. This is unreal. It's a fucking, excuse my language, it's a freaking snowstorm outside. It's ice, and there's somebody knocking on my door. If I'm not back,
maybe you should bring the camera with you. This is a little horror movie-ish.
That's going through my head, but if I'm not back in 10 minutes, call the president. I'm not back.
See, I met Steranko a couple of times. He was great. He talked to me for at least an hour. Wow, actually, he's not true. Steranko talks to no one. He talks at people. Bobby said Steranko once threatened to sell Sal Brodsky out a window.
He's not big enough.
Brodsky was the one who handed out
the window. Yeah. I stood in line 3 hours to get Steranko's autograph.
Yeah.
And I still feel like I'm in that damn line.
Nah.
I don't ever want to stand in line for 3 hours for anything ever again in my entire life if I can help it. I mean, he talked to people when you got up there. He talked to you for a substantial amount of time. But
I've never met Steranko. I've never had any desire to meet Steranko either. I don't know why, but I definitely don't want to meet anyone.
Stories to tell. Some of the stories are canned, if that makes
that's another way. He's very much a showman.
Yes, he very much is. That's very true.
So I'm sure he's got this, his go-to stories.
Right. And they know that Steranko considered himself a tough guy and whatnot, but he's not big enough to throw anybody out a window.
Yeah, sometimes the smaller guys are tough guys because they just have to stand up for themselves so much, and they learned that just standing up for yourself gets you out of most situations.
Yeah, especially if you grew up in, the New York area back in the 40s and 50s.
Right. Yeah. Real sort of psycho tough guys win fights by punching first and winning before you even know you're in a fight. Hey, there's Paolo.
Hi, guys. Here I am.
And Howler's back, and he is safe. All right.
So, if you want to know who it was, I'm still kind of wondering what's up with it, but I got a next door neighbor, met him once or twice, and we actually have like one of my storage buildings that came with this building in between us, so we have privacy. That's good fences, good neighbors, right? But where I'm downstairs, and this is in the back corner away from the street and all this stuff, and remember, he's beside me. They didn't see my lights on, so they were wondering if I lost power. Checking on me. It's bullshit.
Just hold up.
What do you mean you don't have a cup of sugar I can borrow?
I don't know why you came over. I don't know. I guess he said the cat did something to me.
And checking on you like you were an elderly neighbor.
Hey, Jim, maybe he's like the cat.
That's what I'm getting at. It's bullshit. I think I don't know. I think he's been in for a while, and he's like, them damn neighbors are communists. Or something.
Have you been out mowing your lawn with your shirt off during the summer?
Oh no, I retired from 40 years of mowing yards. I'm done, man. Yeah. And that gets Bigfoot sightings called into the police when I run through somewhere without my shirt on. Okay. It's happened. It's happened, All right, Paolo. So we're snowed in. We all got 3 books to show off here in a minute. I think we've stalled long enough because we actually lost people. So tell us about the nice weather over there, so I can be petty.
Yeah, yeah, but this is January, which means that if it's sunny, it's really cold, or as you call, or as you guys call it, cold enough to wear shorts. Yeah, we're getting 4 degrees Celsius this week on mornings, which is the end of the world to us.
I'm trying to convert that in my head to Fahrenheit. I think it's like ×3. No, that's not it.
Yes, it's 38.
39.2.
Nice,
Mhm.
nice. Okay, well, glad you could jump on here, Paolo. Looks like you were taking a nap.
No, I just finished dinner. It's 1:45, and I just finished dinner.
1:45. That's what I'm picking up on.
What'd you
Gotcha.
have?
Cause yeah, I figured there was a weather problem there because we had a lot of complaints from Virginia and Maryland about not getting their food boxes, which means the trucks couldn't get through.
You're absolutely correct.
Nice.
What'd you have for dinner?
Beef. I put in a nice steak in the grill for 2 minutes, and it was ready to go.
There you go.
2-minute grill. Well, 5 minutes before coming on, I finished reading something.
Uh-oh. What'd you finish?
So I'll show it. And I read it digitally on I've had this on my wish list on Amazon for a while now, and I noticed it was on Hoopla. Slaughterhouse 5.
Okay, we're starting the books. We all have 3 books we're going to be showing off. So go ahead. Yeah, I got you.
Kurt Vonnegut, Slaughterhouse 5 book, graphic novel adaptation by Ryan North and Albert Montes. Yeah,
Hold on.
Not familiar with either one.
And let me flip to a bit of the art. It was really good.
Yeah.
See if there's another picture layout will let us have. Oh, that didn't work. How do I get you to where I'm at? Let me try this.
There you go.
There's a little bit of the art. Let's see if I can flip it. Some Jesus.
Okay.
There's his equipment.
Nice.
Come on. Oh, am I going the wrong
Not done
way?
by Elliot Brown, by the way.
It's I think they said that the artist is Spanish.
Okay.
Where is it? Ryan Albert Montes universe translates a little across. Let me see if let me go to the end of it. I'll tell you a little bit about them. Pages. We want to go all the way to the end.
I noticed that the cover art reminded me a little bit of Saul Bass.
Ryan North is the writer responsible for Dinosaur Comics, the Eisner and Harvey Award-winning Adventure Time comic book series for Boom. Albert Montes is a Spanish graphic novelist and illustrator, best known for his work in El Juves, a weekly satirical magazine that he directed from 2001 to 2011. Montes also created the series Carlitos Facts for the children's magazine Mr. K. He founded the satirical monthly publication. Okay, I'm not. Pride and Satisfaction. Don't ask me how to say that in Spanish.
Yeah, let me take care of that.
I'll tell you what was wild. I probably read Slaughterhouse 5 probably 3 times, and I think I read it when I was about 22 the first time. So I'd already been in the military, and I figured out that it was autobiographical. Oh, because there's a section in the book when you read where he explains what a blood gutter is. On now let me go blank. You have your weapon, and then you have the knife that goes on the end. Why can I not think what it is?
Bayonet.
Bayonet. I've actually done the training for everybody who's been in the military. He's done the training for that, but they don't tell you the part. So he's talking about the blood gutter. And then he's talking about this one soldier who's acting like he's like all nuts and all this stuff. There's one in every bunch. And I'm like, this is real. I was like, this, he's pulling from action. He must have been a warrior.
Was he like the guy in the movie Stripes that said, "Don't touch my stuff, man"?
There's
Psycho, yeah. He's in this book. But I read Slaughterhouse-Five once, maybe 15 years ago, and I really didn't remember it, except I found it very confusing.
Really?
Yes. I remember. That's all I remember about it. I don't remember liking it or disliking it. I just remember finding it very confusing. And it makes sense finding it confusing because it's the character is unstuck in time.
Yeah.
As that's where that phrase comes from, unstuck in time. And you can take me out of the big one now.
That Spanish artist is a hero. He was taken to court for offending the King of Spain with his cartoons.
But this is like the Slaughterhouse. I think that might be the only Vonnegut I ever read. That may be the first and only Butch, because I had a friend who was a big Vonnegut fan. He said, "Got to read Slaughterhouse-Five." So I was like, all right.
I can't remember. I read some Vonnegut in high school, but I didn't read the Slaughterhouse-Five till later. I've got some books around here. I found Slaughterhouse-Five. It had the magic of what I would really like to find in a lot of books. It was fascinating. It was the story he was telling. Maybe that's why I was in the military. I don't know, but the story he was telling, it wasn't so much me wanting to know what happens next. It was just you were on the journey with his troop.
Yeah, because you don't know the Slaughterhouse-Five. The story it was. He was. I don't know. He wanted to. First of all, the Kurt Vonnegut, the author, was actually in Dresden when the bombing of Dresden happened, and the city of Dresden, Germany, was leveled, and it was also an open city.
Yeah, and
in that it wasn't defended. There was no military there. There was no military factories or installations.
Oh, there were plenty of factories and installations there.
But there weren't military ones, supposedly.
No, but there were still factories.
Yeah, they were it was a city. But for whatever reason, the Allies decided they were going to bomb Dresden. And it was just a slaughter. I mean, it was just, like I said, it was an undefended city. So it was they just wiped out the city in a night. And Kurt Vonnegut was there. So he wanted to kind of write a book about it.
Well, I think it's genius what he titled the book, because if I remember right, Slaughterhouse-Five was the place that all the troops hid out in during the bombing. There was a place where they slaughtered cows, and he was in the Slaughterhouse-Five.
Yeah, he was right. He was in he was a prisoner of war, and the prisoner of wars were sheltered in Slaughterhouse-Five. Yeah. It's also called the Children's Crusade, Slaughterhouse-Five or the Children's Crusade, because there's one line in the book that's from it was before they got to the slaughterhouse. When he was first taken prisoner, he was thrown in with a bunch of British prisoners who had been there for years. And these British prisoners were they were lifetime military men.
Yeah. So
they were all 40 years old. And the Americans who just were taken prisoner were all, 20 years old.
Yeah.
So they're like, we've been out of this war for so long, we forgot it's being fought by children now.
Yeah.
Right.
He's so good on contradictions, and that's why that scene that stayed in my head probably out of everything else in the book is when they meet them, because when you think of POW camps, World War II, but realistically, we're not talking Hogan's Heroes. You think of, people skinny, starved, looking like walking skeletons, and he was describing that how the Germans actually seem to treat the prisoners of war is actually pretty good, because they were taking their cans from their canned food and they were lining the bottom of their house to keep rats out. And the British kept working out, and he's talking about them having cannonball arms, and they were still shaving and everything. And they did this speech about how you have to keep up your appearance. That's how you keep up morale and optimism. And it was just such a contradiction with the children, the adults, the way they were like, he was explaining their cannonball arms, and they're the, I mean, it was, it's one of those things. I really hope the comic book adaptation does well. Man.
The comic book adaptation was terrific. I have to say, it really, because what the thing about the novel Slaughterhouse-Five is, you think the bombing of Dresden is only one part of it, and the rest is like this weird science fiction story. Because the plot that I can't remember the lead character's name all of a sudden, but
Kilgore Trout, was that it?
No. It's not Kilgore Trout. No.
Where did that pop in my brain from?
He's a writer in the book. But anyway, the lead character in the book, who's kind of the stand-in for Kurt Vonnegut, though he does run into Kurt Vonnegut in Dresden. Okay. But anyway, he is what they call unstuck in time, which is where time is not linear to him. All time exists at once. So he can pop from any time in his life to any other time in his life. And he was also taken captive and put in a zoo by these space aliens, time, they have a completely different perception of time than humans. Right. Time is also, it's like they can't, every moment exists at once. Every moment has already happened. You're either in that moment or in some other moment. You can't change things. And as they say, out of all the worlds that exist out there, the idea of free will, Earth is the only one that it exists on, because they don't know that time isn't linear.
I'm trying to think of the aliens he kept seeing, and it seems like they were shaped like plungers. Am I remembering right?
The ones they have in this are shaped like giant hands with an eye in the middle.
That might be it. Yeah, that might be it. Yeah. But
But it just keeps changing time periods and changing scenes, because one scene he's in the end of his life, the next scene he's in the middle of his life, the next scene he's back in the war, the next scene he's married with kids, and to him it's just normal now. He just keeps going from place to place. And for 2 years, these aliens had him captured in a zoo with a woman because they wanted to see them mate and have a baby.
Yeah, I mean, all that sci-fi stuff that's in it and everything like that. I mean, it's part of the story, like you're talking. It's cool and stuff. Yeah. But the way I read the book, and I know it's just me, is that like I followed it perfectly, man. But I was into the World War II stuff when I figured out it was autobiographical and found out Vonnegut was there. I mean, this was partially a biographical story.
Oh, yeah. I knew it was biographical going into it when I read the novel back then. But I think because, like I said, back then, reading it and thinking it was somewhat autobiographical, all the weird alien and unstuck in time stuff just was like, what to me?
You want to hear the story that I was telling you about, how like there's always that one guy in the military, and like he caught me at the wrong time. Like I have a very long fuse. You know what I mean? Like I'm easy to get along with. I mean, do you want to hear the story? That's
sure. Why not?
Because when I hear Slaughterhouse-Five, I think of this dude. You know what I mean? Didn't even really know who the guy was. But anyway, we had our 2-week summer camp with the Guard, where you go out and play Army out in the woods for 2 weeks. And due to lightning storms, we had lightning storms. This might have been my first one. And we had, there was at Fort Pickett, they've been doing trainings there since the 20s or the 40s. And it's engineer stuff. So it's barbed wire, concertina wire, post hole diggers. The place is just layered with metal under the ground. So there was a lightning storm, and where they had us camping out, we're a gigantic lightning rod, like 3 acres. Okay. So you would see blue going across the ground when lightning would strike. We had one guy struck by lightning twice that way, and our top sergeant died on us and came back. And so it was a hell of a night. So these lightning storms kept going on, and they kept us out there. I drove a 5-ton truck, so everybody was getting in the trucks because of the insulated rubber tires, all this bullshit. You know what I mean? But, wow, it's like, wow, this is some shit's going on. So anyway, everything is hectic for the next 2 weeks, and we get put out in a field with the lightning storm still going on and the storms going on. And they forget about us. We have KP duty out in a field, my truck. We got a table and we're washing dishes and they're coming and getting stuff. And they leave us there for 3 days. And another lightning storm hits. So there's like 4 or 5 of us out there. And I'm sitting there like, I'm about to take off. Like, I don't know where I'm at. I can't get around Fort Pitt. It's deserted. You know what I mean? I would, even if I took off, I wouldn't know where I'm going. Right. So we're sitting there and then the lightning starts flashing. We're all sitting in the back of my 5-ton truck. We got the tarp over us. And then you get this dumbass. He's over there. He'd gotten one of the butcher knives that we were cleaning and stuff. And he had his poncho on and he was posing, letting the lightning hit from the back. Like he was trying to like look all scary, like Jason or something.
Like he's in a horror movie.
Yeah. So here I am, 135 pounds. And I'm like, I looked at him. I went, hey, you son of a bitch, set your ass down or I want to shove that knife up your ass. I'm not in the mood. And then the 2 other guys were like, and we'll help. Like I had backup. Fast forward to us coming back, and we're back in Richlands and all this stuff, and everybody's wives and girlfriends and families out there to like say hi as everybody comes in the convoy after we've been through hell and stuff. And I see that dude. I pulled my truck up right where his wife had parked. She had parked to the side, and I pull up, and my truck stops right where that little son of a bitch is at. And I'm not exaggerating. She seemed like a sweet lady. And I'm not saying that she was fat. I'm saying she was proportionally a giant. She was like 6'6", huge head. I mean, she didn't have like big hands and a little head. Everything was proportioned perfectly. And he looked like a little baby, and he was all embarrassed with us seeing him. He looked tiny beside of her, and she looks like Dolly Parton. And she's sitting there like, hi, like just ready to say hi to everybody and be social. And he's just like a little kid sitting there and he's blushing. I'm like, he came to her tits. I mean, it was like, I was like, no wonder you got problems, you know. I was like,
wow.
All right. Thanks for
that guy is in Slaughterhouse 5.
That was him. That was him.
Weirdo soldier. But
yeah, that was him.
Like the graphic novel adaptation was terrific. It really did a good job. I mean, the artist was terrific, changing scenes. And I think because everything was so visually well realized, it just flowed so smoothly.
Nice.
And even like you mentioned that author before, Kilgore Trout, was that his name? He's like a character. Not only is he a character in the novel, his books are kind of a character in the novel because he's this author who never sells any books. Nobody knows who he is, but he's like a favorite of the 1 and 2.
His stuff gets printed like in smut books, the back of smut books and stuff. He writes sci-fi, and they mentioned one of his books, Venus in a Half Shell, and Philip Jose Farmer actually wrote the book Venus in a Half Shell as Kilgore Trout.
Well,
so
this
there's a
they give you excerpts from his books, but they make them comic books.
Oh, I didn't know that. I don't remember that.
So it's really cool where all of a sudden you get these Kilgore Trout comic books. Weird. One with a time traveler trying to go and see if Jesus really died on the cross. I mean, just the weird stuff. Right. But the weirdness translated so, like I said, the artist is top shelf. He just did such a good job.
I want to say it's Breakfast of Champions. I don't know. I got my books behind this. I'm not going to get up and get them. But I think it's Breakfast of Champions for Kilgore Trout. It's Kilgore Trout centric a little bit. Okay. And it's the book where Kilgore Trout meets Vonnegut. Vonnegut put himself in that book. So, Paolo, you scared me. I was like, oh, no. All right. It's just to keep things moving on or anything like that. But what you got, Scott?
I'm definitely going to get a physical copy of this.
Oh, I'm definitely going to look it up also. What's the company?
I saw it on Amazon. Let me see who publishes it. Slaughterhouse. Go back to pages.
Look at that. People show up to talk about comics, and we give them literature lessons.
Archaia. Archaia.
Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with them.
Yeah,
I've seen their regular. I bought some regular comics from them a few years ago. But
I think I've gotten my Labyrinth and some Dark Crystal. The Dark Crystal books are behind me or something. Yeah, I've got
those, and they used to publish Mouse Guard.
Yes, Yes, I have all the mouse
and a
going.
few other things.
All right.
Well, man, that's the two best literary graphic novel adaptations I've read recently are that and To Kill a Mockingbird.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right, everybody, go check out Solid 4 String Bend here. That's Shannon. He's been on quite a while. Does some great hauls. Awesome collection. Movie World Comics knows who he is. And we got a new name here, Phil Eiling. Is that how you say that? Eiling? Phil? I don't know. You know me and names.
No, but the pronunciation you pick is going to be the wrong one.
Well,
Just the way it always.
whatever works, man.
I might not be able to pronounce the Spanish ones, but he can't pronounce the American ones.
Oh, Paolo, speaking of Spanish, the word that Jared was using before, jueves, for jueves.
Jueves.
Right. What does that actually mean in English? Is it juveniles or kids or
Thursdays.
Thursday? Okay.
Mr.
Boy, was that
Thursday.
wrong.
I like that. I'll start calling him Mr. Thursday. There'll be no confusion, you know. So what you got, Scott?
I have a book that ties into just about everybody that we know on YouTube is a member of the Stan Sakai YouTube fan club.
Yep.
This is a little different. This is called 47 Ronin.
Ah, yes.
This
Nice.
is an actual story based on real history, and the characters are not anthropomorphic. They're actual real humans.
I bought the issues of that as it came
And
out.
I'll just flip it open. I don't know how well the art's going to show up because this is a fairly small book.
And Stan didn't write that one. Who was it? Mike
No,
Richardson?
Mark Richardson actually wrote it. I'm trying to find a good page because a lot of.
But most of the storytelling is visual. So. But yeah, that was good.
I don't know how well that shows up, but things like that. So you see,
Yeah.
they can draw things other than rabbits.
I feel like it's an alternate universe where Usagi is a man. You know, I'm like,
and pictures of soldiers back in the day, and whatnot.
nice.
So to read the blurb off the back, which describes this much better than I can, said Japan's enduring national legend comes to comics. Oh boy, my old man eyes are kicking in. Creators Mike Richardson and Stan Sakai bring history's greatest revenge tale to stirring life under the knowing editorial guidance of Kazuo Koike, probably butchering that, famed author of Lone Wolf and Cub. The epic mission of loyal Japanese warriors to avenge their wrong master epitomizes the samurai code of honor, and 47 Ronin recounts the sweeping saga of duty and duress in all its violent grandeur. Really good, really, really good. If you if you don't like Stan Sakai, something's wrong with you. I'll just okay.
Good stuff.
It's well worth checking out.
I was a little annoyed he took off, half a year or so from Asaki Yojimbo to do that, but it was a good book.
How many years? A year?
I think a half a year to a year or something.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
Quite a while.
Okay. Yeah. After
I
seeing
can't
what
remember
Barry,
the exact- But I was just like, no, Saki Yojimbo. Oh, well, I'll buy 47 Ronin. It was 6 or 8 issues or something like that.
Yeah, it's 6, I think.
I think it must have been 6. Nothing's 8.
Yeah, after reading that Barry Windsor Smith monster, and he spent half his life doing it. I was like, anything sounds possible to me about how long somebody could take off to do a book now.
Right.
That was well worth it on his part.
Yeah, that Monsters was excellent.
Oh,
I'll have to reread it again.
I saw Movie World Comics made a comment last night. I watched the Truffaut film adaptation of Fahrenheit 451. Is there anybody here that hasn't seen it?
Hasn't seen what?
The
Fahrenheit
movie
451.
Fahrenheit 451.
Oh, I have seen that one, haven't I?
nice.
Yeah, I saw it many, many years ago.
Who's the star of that? I can picture his face. Guy from the 60s, right?
Yeah.
Oh well.
Well, that's going to drive me crazy to find out the guy's name.
I
I got to Google it.
think he showed up on Columbo too, or something.
It's either Love Boat or Columbo. That's where everybody was. Yeah. Paolo, did you grab anything you want to show off?
Yeah, let's talk about the importance of context. Magnus Robot Fighter by iBooks, a one-shot published in 2006.
iBooks.
Written,
Okay.
yeah, written by Louis Simonson with art by
Oscar
Damien
Vernon.
Hendricks. And the thing is, Magnus Robot Fighter kind of has two periods: the 60s and the 90s. And the 90s kind of, even though Valiant did not own Magnus, the character kind of became attached to Jim Shooter's concept for the Valiant universe. And while there have been multiple attempts at bringing back the Valiant universe, the current one being the most successful since, Magnus, Turok, Solar, they can be used because they're owned by Golden Books. And in trying to do these right now, it's just going to look generic. It doesn't really matter that it's Wheezy doing this.
Yeah.
They just go to a very basic concept of what Magnus Robot Fighter is supposed to be, and then she tries to introduce tropes here that are pretty basic and seen a million times, and so it's not the most satisfying read.
Hey man, let's just get Jared to call the Simonsons up and be like, "Hey, what was up with that, Wheezy? Come on, man, tell us." Put her on speakerphone. Put her on speakerphone.
They didn't have Russ Manning to do the art, so
yeah.
I imagine what was up with it was that had to be standalone. You couldn't do anything. You have to assume everybody who picks that up. If you license Magnus Robot Fighter to put out some comics, you have to assume everybody has never read Magnus before and keep it simple for them.
Right. Yeah, this does read like an attempt at doing something that can be easily translated into a movie.
Right.
Because it uses typical science fiction future tropes, alien invasion, politicians arguing about bullshit.
Right. Well, I can remember. I only, I never saw as a kid in the mid to late 70s. I never saw much Magnus because it was a 60s book. So, but occasionally I'd get an issue, and it just cracked me up that he knew robot kung fu.
I think I still have one of the issues I got like in 1980 out of those 3-packs. You know what I'm saying? Those Gold Key doing them. Gold Key. Yeah, Gold Key, those 3-packs. And I was sort of fascinated. I was like, this could be good if they went, what I could tell this could be good if somebody else was doing it. That's what was funny.
I just always found it weird though. It's like, well, if it's because, this is in the 70s, every kung fu movie was about some kung fu school.
right.
What got me is
but Magnus couldn't teach anyone his robot kung fu.
Well, he learned Kirk Fu from Captain Kirk.
Double axe handle.
Yeah, and basically, who was it? Was it Russ Manning? Is that who you said, Scott?
Yeah.
I'm going Russ Manning created him. Well, Russ Manning, I read an interview somewhere where he was like, all I did was take Tarzan and make it a city and turn the monkeys into robots. And it was just Tarzan in the future with robots is what he's trying to do. But what killed me is I couldn't figure out what the hell he was wearing, but I was like, those are some cool boots. I was like, that was my impression of Magnus. I was like, a horrible dresser, but those are some nice boots.
Magnus in his go-go boots.
You gotta say, I'm like 7 or 8 years old. Like those are cool boots,
I need me some go-go boots.
That's what made everything just pass me. Like nice boots, man.
Better than the Punisher's white go-go boots.
And didn't he wear a tunic?
I don't know. It looked like a long red shirt that he put a belt around.
Yeah, that's where Luke Skywalker got his look from, I think. With except Luke Skywalker's tunic was white and he wore pants.
Well, not to go all Star Wars Jedi here, but they got that from the samurai, and Lucas even supposedly, I don't know if he did this by accident or if the costume people knew what they were doing, but they even make them fold. I think there's like a traditional, it's supposed to be left over right if you're a real samurai. They even made them make sure they wore them right like that. Just throwing out there if you like Star Wars.
They got it wrong, Gus will know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Now only if there are buttons involved.
Right.
It's Gus's specialty.
Nice. Well, that's awesome, man. But is the book any good? I know you're showing it, but I mean,
no. I wanted to talk about context because there's something that seems to be lacking nowadays from the industry.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons why people complain about what Marvel and DC are doing right now. There's no context to the characters, how they're used in respect to things that went on before, and in respect to what they do and when it comes to interacting with each other. There you have crossovers and events that are completely detached from whatever it is that the characters are supposed to mean. The characters actually lose meaning when they have new stories, and that's kind of the biggest complaint. So this comic, while it's a one shot, without the original comic to make sense of it, or the Valiant reboot to introduce it as part of the Valiant universe, this is a story that's devoid of context. It ends up being an easy to digest product made to become something else, like like what Marvel and DC do. Let's see what we can do to adapt things into movie format, and this kind of reads like it as well.
That iBooks imprint started out with Byron Price.
Interesting.
Nice.
Well, Byron Price's name isn't here. Yeah, the editor's called Howard Zimmerman.
I know that name.
He's edited a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Jared, if you ever get Wheezy on the phone, we'll make time for her. So
probably a job she was hired for.
Yeah, I believe that is. I mean, I don't see her going for this job. So yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing Wheezy for coming up with a substandard product. I imagine that the idea was to create something that was easy to digest, so they could adapt it into something else.
He's not criticizing the creators of the product. He's criticizing the product itself for having no context.
Mm-hmm.
The context within the comic exists is no context. There's a problem.
Nice. Oh man. Are you done with your
Didn't
segment
another
there?
company try to reboot Magnus like 5 years ago?
Dark Horse. They brought in Shooter to try it again at Dark
No,
Horse.
after that even.
I know there probably was, but
I think there was even another one. I think Dark Horse was longer ago, but I don't really remember.
I know I have Solar from the boot that you're talking about,
Yeah.
and it was really forgettable. I mean, just to be blunt, the bottom line, there's a reason you haven't heard anything about it.
Right.
It was kind of like I think they pissed off Jim Shooter. One of the companies pissed off Jim Shooter because they thought they were ashamed of him being there, because they asked him to stay in a room and be quiet while like this comic reporter or somebody was out in the lobby. And what they were doing is saying, we didn't want it leaked out. You were working with us. So a lot of stuff fell flat because of that stuff. Yeah.
Dynamite. Easy, the Game Hunter tells us did. Yeah, I thought it was one of those we licensed everything.
Dynamite would have licensed that character because his boobs aren't big enough.
I tell you what, I'm a huge Turok fan, going back to when I was a kid. So you got Turok, Magnus, and Dr. Solar. I still call him Dr. Solar. They're all owned by Gold Key, Gold Books, whatever they said. So whenever, so they get licensed around a little bit and stuff. But Turok was the first thing that disappointed me with Valiant. That's actually when I sort of hopped out, how they handled Turok, bringing him out of the Lost Land back into the real world. And I'm like, what are you doing? Do you know what this book is about? I'm like, what are you doing?
Speaking of ownership,
about Conan and the Avengers.
And speaking of ownership, hello, Sleepy Reader. As you know, I've been on a Great Gatsby kick for the last year or so, and Great Gatsby is in the public domain now. And I just got this week. I haven't read it yet. Because like last year in 2021, 2 Great Gatsby graphic novel adaptations came out, and now there's another one coming out by Clover Press that I've been buying that's really good. Mm-hmm. But as I was looking for more Great Gatsby stuff, I found a Great Gatsby adaptation from like 2007. And I was like, that's weird. I wonder when, because like they're all coming out now because it was just released last year into the public domain. And I got it, and like I said, I haven't read it, but it says right on the book, for copyright reasons, not for sale in the US and UK. And it's Australian made. So I'm guessing that the Great Gatsby went into the public domain 15 years ago in Australia,
Right.
but they weren't allowed to sell the book in the US or the UK. I found that interesting. Like more copyright stuff. It's like you could make that book in Australia, but it couldn't come here.
You take a stab at it. That's what they want.
I'm actually thinking about doing. Here's another. I'm actually thinking about doing Gatsby. Once again, in looking for more Gatsby stuff as I was doing, I noticed you could, like on Amazon, I saw a few illustrated versions of The Great Gatsby. And I'm like, oh, let's check. And we were talking about the one I showed you with only 4 illustrations in it, but that one was a professionally done book.
Right.
These Gatsby books are only digital. And from what I can tell, the illustrations are amateur hour. I'm just like, what? And then I realized you could take any public domain book like Gatsby,
Yeah.
get the text of it, typeset it, make your own illustrations, and sell a digital version of it wouldn't cost you anything as long as and that's what, as I was watching the football games this weekend, I was typesetting The Great Gatsby. So I might do some illustrations to make my own digital version of an illustrated Great Gatsby.
That's cool, man. When it comes to doing the adaptations of these books and stuff, man, I'm ready for somebody to do the pulps. I could name 10 books a piece for Andre Norton and Philip Jose Farmer that I wish people would adapt. Like,
yeah,
I could almost have fantasies of like winning the lottery and then like calling these comic book companies up, like, let's do this. Because I don't know why being a millionaire.
That brings up an excellent point. I heard there's a podcast called the Cromcast, which deals with Robert E. Howard and other things that they branched off, because you don't talk about Robert E. Howard so much. Howard had a character named Sailor Steve Costigan, who was a professional boxer. And some of the stories were kind of humorous. He got shanghaied in this one story and ended up fighting in some godforsaken ring somewhere he didn't really want to, but the story was really funny. If I had money, I would pay Eric Powell as much money as he wanted to do an adaptation of that story, because I'm listening to the story, I'm like, this is Eric Powell to a T.
Well,
it's an injustice.
I've got a Conan cover for him. And before I show the book that I'm going to talk about, I finally got to read a page or two, and that's all I could stomach of those Savage Avengers, where it was the Punisher and Conan meeting. I think that was the same book. That is the most asinine. I've read Plop. You know what I mean? Like, I can come up with all these. I've read Ambush Plop.
I like Plop.
I have. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. I have read books that are meant to be funny, and what they were doing with Conan meeting Punisher, I'm like, just burn it all down. It's over. I'm like, it's just burned. It was horrible.
One more other point of this whole idea of digital illustrated books is you can update them.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like you can do 6 illustrations this year for whatever digital book you're doing. And then next year, if you want to do more illustrations, you do another 6 and just update the book on like Amazon or Apple. That way, people who already bought it can just download the new one or just update their old one and have more illustrations. And the people who haven't bought it, have more illustrations to sell them to get them to buy it. So I found that an interesting idea too. But I was like, and it was just all the really crappy illustrated Gatsby ones that made me go, huh.
No, since we have Robert E. Howard in the public domain in Europe, which is how we were able to get those French Conan books that Ablaze publishes in the U.S. When that line ends, and I think it's going to end this year, there's going to be 12 Robert E. Howard Conan stories published. I would love to see those guys do a continuation of that with other Howard characters. And one of the things that I would love to see is an actual adaptation of The Shadow of the Vulture, so people could see for the first time ever in comics the real Red Sonja, because The Shadow of the Vulture is not set in the Hyborian Age. It's set during the Ottoman siege of Vienna. So I would like to see how the real Red Sonny looks like in comic book form.
So you're making me smile so hard that my face actually hurts. I swear I thought you were gonna go with Solomon Kane, and you pulled that out, and I'm like, yes.
Lay back on the couch and put your feet up on the ottoman and read it. Right.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, Poe is definitely free.
Nice.
Novels. I don't know.
It took 3 football games to typeset Gatsby, in case you're wondering how long it takes to typeset a book. And that's a short book.
So 26 hours?
About 9 hours, 10 hours.
Well, you have to understand the last 4 minutes of an NFL game last 2 hours.
Okay. All right. I don't know if you guys have read the Neil Gaiman Miracleman stuff he did like in the 90s, late 80s, 90s. I wouldn't, of course, when it comes to Miracleman, I'm saying stick to the Moore stuff. You know what I mean? Like, stick to that. Gaiman came on here.
Actually discussing if Marvel put out those collected editions of Miracleman.
What they've done is, and here's how I can follow it. So, grain of salt, because it's Marvel. It's been like 8 years since they started putting out the single issues again, reprinting those Eclipse books.
Right.
And it was supposed to get you to issue 25, where you get that last Neil Gaiman story.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it all fell apart for whatever reason. Whatever. I'm glad the hardbacks came out. And
when did the hardbacks come out?
Well, the first one here. Hold on. I got them all. See if there's a year. I don't really want to open it. Anyway, I got. You can get all 3. If you traveled around, you can still get all 3 of these trades for like $6.99 at Ollie's.
Okay.
And they retail for $30 a piece, right? So that's how I've waited to get.
Are they still in print? Do you?
I don't think so. I don't think so, but I don't know.
Their remainder, darling.
I have a complete Alan Moore omnibus.
2014 is when the first one came out.
Okay.
What is it? A Miracleman omnibus? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Okay. There's a Miracleman Alan Moore omnibus, but not in English.
Okay.
Sleepy Reader just said, I think they just announced the Miracleman omnibus.
That's okay. They've been announcing a little bit of Miracleman stuff, but I really don't know where I read it. What I could be telling you could be like third hand, or some guy just on a site said it. But supposedly Neil Gaiman just said that not only did Mark Buckingham finish that 25th issue or whatever it is that everybody's been waiting since 1994, 92 or whatever it is, but he's got 4 more issues completed. So I don't know if this is true, right? So anyway, we go back to where a young Neil Gaiman came in and picked up after Moore, supposedly handpicked to carry on. Now, where Alan Moore's stuff was about Miracleman, this is more about the people in the world where Miracleman exists, because the whole world's changed. This is like 3 years or something after Moore's last issue, starting out. And it's so weird because I still wouldn't recommend it. But there's things in here like I like some techniques. There's a Andy Warhol story in here where there's 6 or 7 Andy Warhols, and they bring back the scientist that made Miracleman, but he can only stay in this room in a basement. So they brought back cloning. So what they're saying is that in the real world, Alan Moore, I talked about this on a live stream yesterday. Alan Moore, this was the first time he was asking the question, what if Superman, what if a superhero really existed with powers in the real world? And that's what makes this thing sort of punk rock, but underwhelming nowadays. You know what I mean? Like it was cut edge back then. Neil Gaiman seems to be exploring the world. It would not be superhero versus supervillain. The world would change. He is worshipped. There's a story of London gets wiped out in the last Alan Moore story, and they make this. Gaiman comes in and they built this huge pyramid that goes into the stratosphere in the ruins of London, with pieces of London still around it. And people come to pray to Miracleman, but they have to spend like a week and a half climbing up inside of the pyramid, and 2 people die on the way. It's that treacherous, right? So then he has the story about Andy Warhol, and I got 2 stories in this. I'll move on here, man. But the thing about it is what I like about it is that I wouldn't really recommend the story, but they took black paper and it looks like they did it with pastels or chalk with the colors. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. There's some innovative stuff here. So if you're really into the art or experimenting in comics or seeing what they can do, this is fantastic. They take they Xerox some pictures of Andy Warhol and put it in here. It's an Andy Warhol story, and they try to do some pop art like Andy Warhol in it, experimenting with the art. So I like the craft. but I really wouldn't recommend the story because I really can't tell you what it's about. It's not that it's not that it's confusing. It's just that it's not interesting. You're like, oh, that's Andy Warhol. They're saying something here. It's going to mean something later. It doesn't, whatever. Meanwhile, you're looking at all this really cool art. Just slow down and look at the art and see what they did. Right. I really wish I had that camera there. See what I mean? But like, you know, there's some great, it's pleasing to the eye to me. There's some things that are really cool. And I know a little bit about Andy Warhol.
It's funny. I just, there's an Andy Warhol group I'm in on Facebook that is just terrific. I'm actually not a huge fan of Andy Warhol's work. But Andy Warhol knew how to be an artist. He had that artist persona down.
Oh yeah.
And he just looks like he's having so much fun all the time. And so there's in this group, there's constantly pictures of Andy Warhol having fun.
I wish I could remember whose autobiography it was, but I read an autobiography where it was definitely a guy. It's killing me. I can't remember who it is. I mean, anyway, but they said they met Warhol. And they went to Warhol's like apartment or whatever he lived in. And Andy Warhol went over there and opened his cabinets and had all this Campbell's tomato soup just filled up. And he pulled out, it's like, would you like some soup? And he was sitting there flipping out. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, he couldn't believe this was real. Like, he thought, he was like, what? You know, like Andy Warhol's really into Campbell's soup. You know,
he just was so good at that persona. He was just so good at being the artist that the media wanted and just doing fun stuff.
Yeah.
That it was, as he said, you know, do what you want and let everybody else worry about if it's art. And that's what he did.
Like Anton LaVey.
Well, you know, I've watched
Anton LaVey without the devil.
Right.
See, I know about Andy Warhol through Lou Reed. I know about the Factory. I know about the experiment with the band, the Velvet Underground. I've seen the films that Andy Warhol made where he had two people kissing and there's a bottle of Coke in the little film.
He just did stuff.
Yeah, they're kissing so hard and for so long, you eventually feel uncomfortable watching it. I mean, it's wild, man. And I'm by no means am I Andy Warhol connoisseur, but I get it. You know what I mean? Like I get how he became a public figure character with fans.
One of my favorite things about, like I said, he knew how to play the media so well. Like that famous Andy Warhol quote, "In the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes."
Yeah. And it came true.
Every Friday afternoon, he'd come out and read quotes. And he didn't even come up with all of them. He and his group in the Factory did, but he'd read them and get credit for them. And he knew he'd just do it because he knew some of them would stick.
Yeah.
And sure enough, some of them stuck. It was just amazing.
Quite as good at quotes as Yogi Berra was, though.
Yeah. Same thing with Yogi Berra. I didn't say all the things I said. Right. Same with Andy Warhol. He, didn't say all the things he said.
So there's an Andy Warhol story there, and apparently, like, this is the group that would get it if you read it. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't recommend it, but if somebody
check out I wish I knew what the name of that Andy Warhol Facebook group was, but it's a fun one to follow just because, like I said, Andy Warhol was just having so much fun, it looked like. Whether you like his art or not.
Now, this trade I showed, what surprised me is this whole Total Eclipse thing, which was an Eclipse 10th anniversary special that Marv Wolfman, wrote.
That was like a crossover or something, right?
It was like they got Marv Wolfman to do it, and I actually got to talk to Marv Wolfman about it like 2013 at HeroesCon. I just kind of looked at him and like, what was up with that? And he was like, none of those characters should have been together. I was doing a favor for a friend when he wrote this. So they came out and they got Bean World and Marvel, Miracleman, Airboy, the Heap, the Prowler, all these indie characters meeting, and they don't mesh. You know what I mean? But they had backup features, and in the backup features, it has like I'd probably read 2-3 Neil Gaiman Sandman by this time when this came out, and this has the Neil Gaiman book story that made me sort of a fan. Like I got it. To me, this is when he was sort of this is when I think he figured out how to write a comic. If that makes any sense, right?
Is that a Sienkiewicz cover?
Yes, he did all the covers on there. Yeah, and this is I'm going blank on the character, man. It's the guy that wears the gas mask. But anyway, that's a gas mask, and he's got Oh, what's the bean's name? I just read this guy. He's got the bean all over it.
Oh, okay. The Tales of the Bean World.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got Mr. You got you
Larry
got
Mulder.
Yeah,
And
he's
that
the creator, but I don't remember the character.
Gator. It was right on the tip of my tongue, and there's Miracleman, being reflected in there.
Mhm.
So I mean, I thought it was fun. I didn't know these characters. I'm like 16 when this comes out, I think.
Yeah.
But the backup feature in that is this is where you start getting the idea of like, I thought this was like teasing you about Neil Gaiman coming on the Miracleman, because it's a slice of life story. Miracleman's barely in it, and he's only in it in a flashback of this guy telling the story. But I'm not going to get personal, but when I read this, I had lost my virginity a year before, and it was nothing like this. Okay. Okay. But anyway, this guy loses his virginity, and he turns on the light, and you never see the girl that he slept with. She stays bundled up under the covers, and he lights a cigarette, and then he yahoos right in front of her because he finally had sex and got to smoke a cigarette. And then he's talking about with sex how like it's making me want to open up and talk about things and all this stuff. So he talks about some messed up things, and he talks about his childhood and all this thing walking him through. And it was really cool because if you pay attention, they're telling you how things have changed since Alan Moore left the Miracleman books and what's happened, where Gaiman's going to pick up on. Real subtle, like it makes more sense after you start reading the Gaiman run. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't realize
like a bridging element, right?
A bridge, that's the perfect word, but you don't know you're crossing the bridge. You're just reading this slice of life about this kid pouring his guts out to a girl he just lost his virginity to, and she's like, yeah, wanting to share, that happens sometimes, and she just snuggles up in the blankets more. You get the idea she's trying to go to sleep while he's talking and stuff. And he says losing his virginity is one of the 3 most important things he's ever done, and he's telling her the other 2 at the same time. And I think he actually put meeting Miracleman number 1 above where he met him briefly. The guy flew down. He asked him if there's a nuclear war, will you save us? He went, I might. And he goes, can I be your sidekick? And he goes, no. And he flies off and leaves the kid standing there. So it was a really cool slice of life comic that if there was more stories like that out there, this would be my thing, that little slice of life thing that it means something, but you're not quite sure what it means. And then you find out later, you know what I mean?
I love slice of life comics.
Yeah, this was done really well.
Whose life
Even without superheroes.
Yeah.
I don't need superheroes in my slice of life.
So that little story I consider like an alternative comic. That's an alternative comic to me. Your setting is a kid who just lost his virginity, sitting there naked, smoking a cigarette in a bed beside of a naked woman, and he's talking about all these messed up. He was talking about watching a film, newsreel somewhere, and these people, Germans or somebody, had like cut off all these women's breasts and were using them on a chessboard. Little things like that, little weird stuff would come in like that.
That ties into something you were talking about earlier. You're talking about the Germans treating the prisoners, the British prisoners, World War II. I have a very strong stomach, and I have seen film footage of a liberation of a concentration camp in Germany. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever get the thought in your head that you want to do further research into that with either the Germans or the Japanese, don't do it.
Oh, no. No, I'm not interested.
I'm not into atrocities, really.
Not much bothers me, but damn, brother.
Let's see. Slice of Life comics. We got Berlin by Jason Lutz.
Mm-hmm.
We got Box Office Poison by Alex Robinson. We got Clyde Fans by Seth. What else is there? Cuba, My Revolution, I think, and The Quitter, both by drawn by Dean Haspiel. What else do we have? Joe Matt, Spent. Lots of Joe. Louis Reel by that's more historical.
No Fat Freddy's Cat.
I'm a Slice of Life fan.
To me, it depends on whose life it is.
I've had Box Office Poison in my hand. I'm going to take this. And I carried it around the store for a minute. And then I put it back. Maybe later. And I'm still...
Haven't seen it again?
No.
Oh, boy.
So you didn't poison yourself.
Yeah. The having stopped buying superhero comics for the last 2 years did wonders for me, because at that time I said, okay, man, this seems interesting. But there's that superhero comic I want. Yeah, well, let's go with the safe approach. And I spent years doing the safe approach, and now I look back and why was I being safe? What was I being safe about?
Well,
You thought you'd get the most enjoyment being safe.
Yeah.
Then the perfect book for you would have been Safe Area. I can't pronounce the word Gorzadza. I can't. It begins with a G.
Well, that little slice of life deal and gaming story was exactly what I needed at that time because I was starting to get hungry. Like I wanted something more from comics. I was in some existential growing up puberty thing,
right.
But I was wanting more. I wanted things to mean more, not just be,
Well,
I don't know where I was going. I was going through a stage. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I wanted things to
Gaiman
mean
is the master of the short story.
His short stories are so I can get through his short stories and stay more involved than I can with his
short
novels.
stories are as good as anybody's.
Yeah. You got your next book?
I just pulled Michael Cho Shoplifter off my shelf because I didn't remember it. What's that?
Did you pay for it?
I think so.
Okay.
But isn't Michael Cho like a cover artist for Marvel now? And other people hasn't he done stuff?
There's Frank Cho and who's the other guy?
No, I think there's a Michael.
Completely different.
I get those guys mixed up through their art.
There's a real sort of graphic designy guy. Well, I think this is him, Michael Cho. I don't remember
Michael
this
Cho's art style is more like Darwin Cook.
2014.
Hey, man, I'm gonna go use the bathroom, guys. I'll be right back. I'll just be blunt. We're all friends.
This is from. It was funny. I was just looking at my slice of life stuff, and I was like, I don't remember this book.
I
See that I got a new book just by going to my shelf. Michael Cho Shoplifter.
Is the whole thing colored pink?
Looks like it. It's all black and pink ink. Corinna Park used to have big plans. Studying English literature in college, she imagined writing a successful novel and leading the idealized life of an author. But she's been working at the same advertising agency for the past 5 years. The only thing she's written is copy. Corinne knows that there must be more to life, but she faces the same question as does everyone in her generation. How to find it. Here's a brilliant debut graphic novel about a young woman's search for happiness and self-fulfillment in the big city. And a quote by Seth, author of Palookaville. Michael Cho's Shoplifter, his first graphic novel, is a joy to behold. So beautiful it will make all other cartoonists weep with envy. I don't remember it. I have a vague recollection of it, but that plot description.
Yeah, his art style always reminded me just a little bit of Darwin Cook. It's
I can see.
similar.
I think he's done covers for either Marvel or DC in the last 5 years. So I remember that there was a guy with whose name was Cho, with a real sort of graphic designy style.
Well, there's also Frank Cho, which also has
he doesn't have a graphic design style. And I know his work, so
right.
I'll put this in my to be read pile because I don't remember it.
There you go.
Yeah, this is what I have. I had these magazine holders. I actually got at Marvel in the 90s when they were throwing them out.
Those are wider than normal.
What was that?
I like those because they're wider than normal.
Yeah, and they were like sitting in the garage for like decades. Oh, here's one with a sticker on the front. Let's see what it says. Sweden, Star Comics, Care Bears. Okay. So I guess Marvel licensed some Star Comics Care Bears to Sweden. But I was like, you know what? I should bring these inside and keep them next to my chair and keep books in them that I'm going to read. They'll help me read them.
Hopefully
they make nice little comics. When I was reading those negation books, I just took, a stack of 30 negations and stuck them in there and picked them out one by one.
I wanted to touch on something Sleepy said earlier. He said, I think the Tarzan novels are out of copyright.
Mm-hmm.
They may go out of copyright eventually, but they're never going to go out of trademark. the Burroughs estate will hang on to those things harder than Disney hangs on to their properties.
Right.
They will come after you if you don't respect their IP. They will sue you.
Now it's not 62 Lefty Blues just said, was that Cliff Chang? No, Cliff Chang I definitely know. So it's not Cliff Chang I'm thinking of.
Was Cliff Chang the same artist that worked on Paper Girls?
Yeah, he worked on Paper Girls and Wonder Woman and other things.
Because I saw that the cover of the Batman or the Batwoman, Batgirl, one of the female Bat character, I don't remember her name, that he did. It looks like his art style was a little different in that. Does he normally do different art styles on different projects?
I don't know. I don't know Cliff Chang that well.
I'm not familiar with him enough with him to know.
Yeah, there we go. Michael Cho covers 10 Marvel titles in March. Is that this March or some other March? Let's see. Avengers 4. Where's the date on this thing? 2016. So I guess it is
5 years ago. Or
by
6 years
Joe
ago.
Grunwald. No, this is 12/21/2020. In 2016, Cho provided cover art for 21 of Marvel's titles. So in 2020, so this is one he did do after he did that. Michael Cho, right? That was his name.
Yeah. That's a pretty respectable amount of covers
for Marvel in that graphic designy style. I thought I knew his name from that. Usually Chang's only changes styles in the subtle ways. Yeah, Michael Cho rocks. He's doing a lot of Marvel Omni covers and regular covers. Okay.
I have a issue of a magazine called Illo that has a big article with Michael Cho in it.
Well, I had his first graphic novel on my shelf and didn't even know it.
There you go. And knowing is half the battle.
He's a cross between Bruce Timm and Jack Kirby. All right.
I can see that closer to Bruce Timm than he is to Jack Kirby, but yeah.
It is really... I've seen guys who copy sort of the surface of Jack Kirby's style, but almost none of them get it. It's like they don't understand his drawing. They understand the lines he makes on paper, but they don't understand his drawing.
I would say the one artist I can think of that really gets it in that term would be Steve Rude.
Steve Rude, yeah. He gets it more than... But he rarely does it. I mean, he doesn't really...
Right. Yeah.
He doesn't... He uses some of his techniques, but not his drawing style.
Right.
Like, you know who else gets it? Eric Larson also uses some of his layout techniques, but not his style.
Who was the artist that there was a series that Image did? It was called Godhead.
Godland.
Oh, yeah. Godland. I mean, the guy that looks exactly like Jack Kirby.
Tom Scaglioli.
Tom Scaglioli, yeah.
He's one who he gets the surface of Kirby, but he really doesn't get Kirby's drawing. Godland is good, though. I mean, I think he does a good job with it.
He kind of started trying to do Kirby there, but there was a point there when it flipped and you start seeing the Ditko emerging. So imagine those Ditko Doctor Strange ambiances, but drawn by Jack Kirby.
There were some times when I was reading Godland where all of a sudden there'd be a Kirby line in there, and I'd be like, he has no idea what that line means.
Gotcha.
He's just kind of putting it in there for the style.
Yeah. And Tom's the one where he was the first person I let sign a comic book, and he pulled out a blue ink pen and wrote his name on bubble letters.
Yep.
So anytime he's brought up, I'm like, I gotta get this off my chest, man. I haven't been able to finish Godland, and I think that has something to do with it. But I've got the whole set, and I don't think I made it past issue 17 or something. I don't know. There's only like 36 of them.
Gotcha.
Oh man. Now it's funny that he brought him up. If I'm thinking of the right guy, Sandman Overture graphics, I think I'm gonna go ahead and order it. I really do. But they're coming out with sort of like an artist edition where they take all of his original art for Sandman Overture.
That book has been pushed back several times.
Well, that's why I'm thinking about getting it. It's solicited right now. There's only 2,000 of them for sale.
It's
So-
been pushed back like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, there's only gonna be 2,000 of them, so I may go. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. It's pricey, but 35% off for a book that's been delayed for 2 years or something.
Understanding Kirby's drawing is not easy. I mean, in terms of drawing it yourself.
I think I'm gonna have to, and we can jump in if you've read it, man. I think somewhere in the future we need to do a little Godland story or Godland video or stream or something. I don't know.
I didn't know much about it, but I just saw the art and it struck me like this guy's just
Joe Casey and
Yeah.
Joe Casey and Tom Scioli decided they wanted to do a love letter to Kirby, so they came up with this Godland thing for 36 issues. The more you know about Kirby and his work in comics, the more you're going to pick up what they're doing. I mean, the Baxter Building is in it, but it's not the Baxter Building. It's got the alliteration for the names. It's got some of the drama and the sci-fi elements of 2001, and then it really went out there. They even pulled his World War II stuff in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
As Sleepy Reader says, Godland seduced, then frustrated the Kirby fan in me. That's because, like I said, that it really was. I mean, I like Godland. It's well done. I sold my omnibuses of it a couple years ago, but I'd like to get them back again someday. But the frustrating part was realizing that his sort of Kirby style was there, but not there.
Yeah.
It was there well enough, but I wished it was a little better.
You just need to get, if you want Kirby, get Kirby.
Like
right.
66% Kirby, would you say?
Yeah. So you have to kind of have to put out of your mind that eventually you're like, oh wow, he's doing Kirby, and that's what attracts you to it. And then you have to put out of your mind that he's doing Kirby.
If you want somebody that can ape Kirby better than Scioli, you're going to have to look up some Keith Giffen. I got a Star Brand issue where he meets Night Mask and they go into his mind, and it's a Kirby world.
But Keith Giffen always did his own thing in terms of his Kirby wasn't really Kirby. Like the first time I saw Keith Giffen was in his Defenders work when he was doing a sort of Kirby thing, but his Kirby was always so much Keith Giffen that you were never saying, oh, he's trying to imitate Kirby. He's just kind of taking Kirby and doing his own thing with it.
I think instead of Godland, I would push American Barbarian on everybody. This
For
little
Tom
one.
Scioli?
Yeah. I like Scioli. I get where he comes from. I get what he's doing.
Oh yeah, I like his stuff too.
Yeah, let me put that out there. I mean, I know we're critiquing and saying things.
Right.
But but when it came to like him aping Kirby, he came closer in American Barbarian. Okay. Maybe it's where he had, I don't know. In my mind, it's where he got a lot of practice in Godland and got to this. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, Scully's got a love for Kirby. He did this amazing research for the Kirby biography that he put out. You know, I mean, like the guy's got some merits and credits to him. But like I say, with Godland, it frustrated a lot of people. I'm there. I totally agree. You know what I mean? So
Landron could get that Kirby feel a la Heavy Metal. Oh yeah, he did.
I completely didn't even, I could right there. I've got my stack of Ladron cable books, right? Yeah, it was like Kirby figures and then like Jeff Darrow and manga backgrounds. You know what I mean? Like when I found that guy doing Spider Boy, those 2 Spider Boy books he did for Amalgamation when he did those. He didn't do the first one. Anyway, he did the second one. Yeah. Fantastic stuff. Oh my God. He put so much in there.
Scioli understands Kirby, but it's too cerebral. Landron has a natural Kirby energy to his work. Yeah. I don't even know if it's too cerebral, but he understands the surface of Kirby, but he doesn't have 40 years. But it's kind of like Kirby came by that style after 40 years of drawing.
Well, go ahead, Paolo. I've got something to say, but go ahead, man. Yeah.
Ladron is not strictly Kirby, and you can see both the Mobius influence and the manga influence. There's a lot of manga still when he did the Spider Boy amalgam. Right. But during Cable, it starts integrating a lot of Mobius storytelling. He doesn't use Kirby storytelling. He uses Kirby poses. He uses Kirby design techniques, but the storytelling is purely European. And after he leaves Marvel, and then he works on Elephant Man, that thing is very, very European.
I was just Googling his work where you're saying that. I noticed two things. He does see a lot of elements of Mobius and a lot of elements of Juan Jimenez.
Nice.
Yeah,
Now,
even more so than because as time goes by, because Jimenez doesn't draw like Mobius, and and if you're familiar with the Incal universe, and you compare how the Incal was drawn and how Meta Barons was drawn, it was it's like action. The posing movement that Jimenez was good at.
Now, there's a thing with Kirby. Now, I don't know how Tom Skelly works. I don't know how fast he is. I don't know how many pages he can do, but Kirby could pump out 15 pages a week. And Godland had a lot of delays. It took forever. The longer that series went, the longer it took for it to come out. Nothing like Planetary, though.
Well, one of the reasons it took so long is no one was buying it.
Well, but the trick is, and I swear I think it was Alex Ross or somebody that said this. Somebody who did not like Kirby started looking at his stuff, then they started seeing the genius, and they put together that there is an energy in comics when you're putting it out, when you're drawing it fast. There's a certain energy and rawness that comes out when you're half thinking and half just trying to get it down and getting it out, and there's an energy that comes through. You can't, if you're going to ape Kirby, you can't take your time for one thing. And another thing is Kirby never drew, and you can correct me, I don't know, but he never drew a figure that was static, just standing there. Everything was either in motion, mid motion, or about to go into motion. He never had a figure that just stood there and posed. You know what I mean?
Kirby also had, from what I've read, Kirby also had the rare talent to see the whole picture before he drew it. That's not usually how art's made.
Len Wein and Marv Wolfman, I think I've told the story before. They looked him up in a phone book and went to his house in the early 70s, right? And apparently people did this, right? So they would go there and they actually got to watch Kirby draw. And what he would do is he would start in the left corner of the picture and work his way down and fill the picture up that way. And to watch him, they said it was mesmerizing.
That is extremely rare.
No.
Matter of fact, I once there was once a post on Facebook where they were talking about artists who couldn't visualize stuff and didn't know what the whole drawing looked like before they drew it. And every artist who chimed in was like, "Yeah, that's how you make art. You can't. Nobody sees the whole drawing before they draw it, except the rare person like Jack Kirby."
I heard somebody ask Bernie Wrightson once. And he said, he had the whole thing in his head before he even put a line on a piece of paper. He just took what the image he had in his head and like a projector on the paper.
Oh, Bernie? He told me that at Heroes Con one year. He just randomly said it, man. There was like 2 or 3 of us standing there, and he just said it. And he said it nonchalantly. It wasn't being a braggart. Godland, the better story than American Barbarians. It's night and day. One's more sci-fi. The other one's post-apocalyptic, which is in a throwback to Saturday morning cartoons of characters that had magic swords.
I haven't read American Barbarians, but Godland is a fun story.
Yeah, they're both fun, but I wouldn't compare. I don't know if I could say one is better than the other because they're still different. You know what I mean? They're not.
I got a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, American Barbarians is the one I would push on people before Godland because it's a one and done story. You know what I mean? Like you just get this and you got it. Godland ebbs, flows, subplots, lots of more characters. This one's more centered on a character, and he plays around with the art and stuff, just different stuff. Yeah.
To touch on Sleepy's question, is John changes style? I was just Googling some of his art, and evidently he does, because I could see elements of what we consider to be classic Mobius and also elements of Blueberry. It was a completely different style. And then he did a cover for The Spirit, and that was a different art style.
See, I'm going to slow down here, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. But I could be completely wrong, which is fine. But I swear that I saw some Ladron that had a little bit of Corbin in it, Richard Corbin in it. and I cannot think what it was. I mean, you got me thinking now, but
Right.
yeah. Some get better when they speed up, some better when they slow down, like Barry
Yes.
Smith. Yeah.
I can tell a big difference between sped up Barry Windsor Smith and slowed down. Same thing with Mike Kaluta too. I can tell a big difference.
Well, having this all started out with Kirby and then get down here to Barry Windsor Smith came in and the Marvel told him to draw like Kirby. So
Right.
for I mean,
Yep.
that's a good bookend and a good journey of what I mean, like trying to be Kirby, did his own thing, and then took his time for 35 years on one book. There you go.
But
that Monsters is heartbreaking, man. You got me thinking about it now. Yeah.
There are other artists I think of that can't really tell if he was sped up or slowed down. Like Joe Kubert is a good example of that. Can you tell a difference? I don't know.
I think I can, but I mean, it's just he just has some drawings that are better than others. I don't know.
Well, that's true too. I mean, does.
Joe Kubert, I didn't really notice him. He did some Justice League covers in '82 where they were crossing over with the JSA and they brought in the Crime Syndicate. You had George Perez covers and Kubert covers. Kubert covers, I thought they were ugly, and I had a buddy who tried to like draw those covers over back in high school, and he said he started noticing how Kubert draws things at angles. And he started respecting Kubert. And when he was trying to explain it to me, we never bottom lined it, but I started having appreciation for his work after this guy was sitting there telling me how he couldn't copy something that looked so simple. And he started figuring out the guy draws things at certain angles. That's just, it's he couldn't explain it. You just did it and you caught it as you did it. So there were some dynamics to his artwork that were,
I'm just saying, it's like, I can tell when some artists are working on a deadline and some aren't. And then there are other ones.
I've noticed, see, to me, when he draws Hawkman, he draws Thor, he's pouring his heart into it. When he does a Superman cover or I got this Captain America cover.
I see where you're coming from.
I got this Captain America cover. It was an anniversary issue for Captain America and it's horrible. I'm like, I can't believe that's Kubert, so. Yeah,
it happens. I think Joe Kubert was fairly fast, and I don't think he was precious about his drawing.
Gotcha.
I think the best thing he ever drew was that tour picture to advertise Joe Kubert School of Art.
That was a good one.
Who's next on a book? Who's got a book? Are we on?
I don't remember.
Pilo.
I'll show off a book. Got a little Lock and Key.
Let me get you up here.
This is, what's the name of this one? Lock and Key, Heaven and Earth. This is one of their thin collections of some of the one-shots they've had. I think there's 3 one-shots in this.
I probably
the first one was Open the Moon, Grindhouse, In the Can. As seen in Guide to the Known Keys, as seen in Grindhouse, as seen in the IDW 10th Anniversary Collection. And it's all Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez. And the first one is this real poignant story about this little kid, one of the kids in the Key family who's dying young. And they end up taking him somehow, I don't know. It's like this Little Nemo thing where they take him up to the sky. And like in Little Nemo, the sky is really a set and they can go behind the set. So since he was dying, they brought him up to this set and left him there in this magical fairy world kind of place.
That's nice.
He wouldn't have to die and he'd be a kid forever. And like his grandpa who was dying was going up there with him.
Yeah, just to insert this, Lock and Key has the magic of, as the book went on, Gabriel Rodriguez got to quit his day job. And his art got better and better and better, and Joe Hill's stories got better and better.
So is it kind of like Barry Windsor Smith when you can see as is progressing, he's getting better?
Yeah, getting to that theme of like taking your time or not being rushed or having more time to do it. That's what happened with Rodriguez. That art gets superb.
The second story is a gangster story, and much different style. Sort of a, I don't know what you'd call this, a Munoz style. Not his sort of illustrative, decorative work. And it's about gangsters who take refuge in the Key House. And as you might imagine, things don't work out for them.
Right.
I haven't read this since it came out, but I think the whole point of these one-shots is explain why some of the keys were made.
Yeah,
from the Lock and Key. Yeah. It's backstory.
the last one was just a cute little original Key House story. You know, our original cast of characters and a key to the outhouse.
Can you believe this is from 5 years ago? Can you believe that? 5 years ago, this came out.
I just got it now, so it seems new to me. But yeah.
Yeah, I've never read any of the Key stuff.
The Key stuff, if I had just read the first miniseries, I would have been out. But I looked up and bought 2 or 3 for $5 a piece at HeroCon one year, and I got to skip to number 5 or something, and it was phenomenal. I mean,
like the art in that book that Jared just showed. That looks
it's much better than the Netflix show.
Oh, the Netflix show, I was out when they messed up the memory key. And they tore it into a toy box instead of your brain opening it up, and you can actually see your memories walking around.
I was okay with that, but you know,
I was out.
It's very teen drama. It's more teen drama than the comics.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of teen books anyway.
It's like they did the world building where they gave you lock and key for an episode or two, and then when they got to the memory box, it turned into its old show. I was out. I'm like, this is not lock and key anymore.
And what's interesting too is in the back of the book they have photos of when the lock and key crew took a trip to the real life place that inspired the Key House. It's a real life spit of land in Massachusetts. So there's like the cave that they went to and stuff like that. That's kind of fun.
Cool.
Muttman, Lock and Key is about a family who moves across the country to their ancestral house, the Key House. And they find out that there's magical keys in the Key House that do superpowered things.
Yeah. Basically, it's like a horror story.
Yeah.
And their dad has died. And then somebody else died, and they ended up inheriting this house, and their mom's broke. And it starts getting an imagination. Weird things are happening in the house, and the adults don't seem to notice. And then you start finding out how what's the character's name? The antagonist, the one that's trapped in the well.
I don't even remember.
Right. Yeah, there's an old ghost in there that grew up with her dad, and it's been trapped. The spirit's been trapped in a well, and one of the keys lets it out, and it's able to turn between a boy and a girl, thanks to the keys.
Please tell me they get Lassie to tell them that Timmy is trapped in the well.
No.
Yeah.
But Timmy figures it all out on his own.
Yeah. But it's fantastic, man. There's an old lady who's stuck in a old folks home, and they think she's gone. She's a vegetable, and it's because somebody took her memories out of her head and left them trapped in this cave that they go down to for decades. I mean, there's so much cool stuff in there, man. Yeah, but it's heartbreaking, man. Those kids go through hell. I mean,
very imaginative.
But yeah, the kids, the family, all 3 of the kids and stuff. He gets the dynamics right. The oldest one is trying to be the man of the house, and he's trying to deal with his dad dying. The girl's having problems at school and being nuts, thinking she's crazy. And
there's 6 volumes of it, and those 6 volumes all deal with. That's the first Lock and Key story, and that all deals with this one the 3 kids mostly in their whole lives. And then the stuff they've done since then, they've like gone back in time and told Lock and Key stories about different people, different family members who lived in it. Like the one they just did, the Sandman Lock and Key crossover, which was really good. That was like the family who lived there during World War I.
Yeah. The girl, they were able to take out everything that was making her nuts in her head. Her memories, her bad memories actually took form of some like little demon. And they took it out of her head and locked it in a bird cage. And all of a sudden she was just like sunshine and roses and happy and getting along with everybody. I mean, there's just so much stuff there, but the magic of it, that I think is that if I just read the first miniseries, I'd have been out. It actually gets better the further it goes along, story-wise, art-wise, everything.
That's the same way I felt about Sandman too. It gets better as it goes.
Oh yeah, nice,
all good stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, I keep it on the shelf, and it's time for a reread. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Scott, what you got, man?
I don't know if I've talked about this before or not. This is one of my favorite books that's ever been done. Actually, it's called The Amazing Screw-On Head.
Yes,
okay. That is by Mike Mignola of Hellboy fame.
I should have known.
This is a masterclass in timing in writing. The timing of the storytelling and the dialogue is perfect. I cannot think of a better comic in terms of timing than this.
Wow.
Mike himself has never seen the animated version of it, but there's an animated version which you can find on YouTube now.
Free.
Yes. David Hyde Pierce did the voice of, or no, not David Hyde Pierce. Who was the guy that played Frasier's brother on TV?
It was David Hyde Pierce. You
It
got
was
it.
David. Okay.
Yeah.
He does the voice of a character called Emperor Zombie, who is the villain. It is absolutely hysterical.
And the character is literal from that title. Tell him, Scott. I mean, screw on head. His head really.
Oh yeah, the lead character is an automaton with a screw-on head, and he's a secret agent for Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
Bounces around. Yeah.
Heads he can put on for different missions. But there's a lot of dialogue about Emperor Zombie. He gets excited about something, and the quote is, "I got so excited I made water in my pantaloons."
Just put out a new TPB of it. Interesting.
Yeah,
I was dread.
I hope Mike never does a direct sequel to it. I don't think he will, because it's just perfect.
It came about because he wanted a freaking break from Hellboy. He wanted to draw something just completely different from Hellboy, and that's what came out. And when that cartoon got made by Sci-Fi Channel, I was like, "Oh shit!"
And the animation is exactly like you took Mignola's art style and put it up on a screen. It's not.
They nailed it.
Close. It's 99.9%.
Yeah, I was totally prepared to be pissed off, and when I saw it, I'm like, they did it. Wow.
But I think still to this day he's never watched it because he's too close to it.
Yeah.
If his new project called Radio Spaceman is 1/10 as good as this, I'll be ecstatic.
Cool. Well, I've got to run along now.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm gonna turn on a football game and talk to my friends on Facebook about it.
Okay, man. Who's playing tonight? I know it's not the Giants.
No, we got the Rams and the Cardinals. All this weekend, I've been talking to my friends on Facebook about as the football games go on.
Yeah, 62 Blues. Dude, I'm all over that book like white on rice, man.
Well,
so I'll catch you guys later.
I'm impressed that you have stuck with the football. That's impressive. So yeah,
I've been having fun. Dude. I typeset that whole Great Gatsby novel. I typeset as I was watching football and talking to my friends on Facebook. All right, so I'll catch you guys later.
Have fun.
Have a good night.
To address what 62 Lefty Blues said when that quarantine sketchbook came out, I saw those Radio Spaceman sketches. I'm like, I would love for this to be a comic. And then when they announced it was, I was like, yes. So
that's awesome. Paolo, what you got to show, man?
Okay. Before I need to ask you guys one thing. Do you think that when American authors create slice of life comics, they do whatever it takes to avoid having movement?
I don't know. When it comes to a slice of life, I always sort of picture something coming from a memory. So I've never really thought about it, but my first impression is I don't think it's on purpose. I think it's because they're remembering it. You know what I mean?
Like about dynamic movement in the art itself.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is like after mentioning
I don't specialize in it. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah, because what I have here, this is a family drama about making beer.
Okay.
And I have here the only two books that were published of this Belgian series, The Brewmasters. And this is volume 1. No, this is volume 1, and this is volume 2. The series actually goes on for 8 volumes, but I don't have the other one, which I need to buy in French. And I suppose that I can find the Integrals.
And you get the other 6 as a 6-pack.
And no, they're Integrals. They're two volumes per one. So, but yeah. So this is a family drama, and it's set in the first albums are set in the 19th century in Belgium, and there's a lot of movement here. You can see it doesn't. you can see the whole universe around the characters.
Yeah, a lot of it's taking place outside. It's not all inside, right?
Yeah.
That may be
Eh,
why there may just be more movement just by default.
yeah, but the thing, because in Europe we're not stuck in what's supposed to be appropriate for the genre. And this is written by Jean Van Damme, the guy who created Torgal, the guy who created 13 in Largo Winch. And well, this is not unlike those three. This is not his most successful project. I I love seeing this. I mean, it doesn't stop.
That's true. I mean, in American slice of life comics, you usually don't have people wandering through a forest.
Yeah. Right, because slice of life is not the best way to describe this. Like I said, this is a family drama, so of course the character is going to have reactions, but
Right.
the detail, the shifting camera angles, the way that, look here, we have characters lifting glasses.
Lots of folds in the.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, this looks like great world building and great characterization. The way you hold a cup. You know, I mean, I've heard artists talk about it took them a little while to get a handle on a book on the characters, how they move, how they stand, and all that stuff. And this guy's showing you how somebody picks up a glass. I mean, that stuff count, you know.
Yeah. The artist's name is Francis Valles, so he's not very well known. I'll have to go to Bidetech to find out to look at what else he did besides this. But yeah, this is from the same school that brought us Mobius. These guys were all fans of Gigi in the 1950s, and they ended up creating this.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, Sleepy, if you want to jump on, just give a yell. Somebody else.
Well, Sleepy also brings up a good point. He's talking about U.S. slice of life creators feel they may have to be visually opposite genre comics.
Yeah, I suppose that's it. Yeah, I mean these guys are. When I mentioned the same school as Mobius, that they're fans of Gigi, the Mobius was trained by Gigi. Gigi was Belgian. Yeah, so are these guys here, and yeah, they don't run away from what they're trying to accomplish.
Right.
If there's one. If there are two languages that dominate French-Belgian comics, it's they're more cartoony. It's ligne claire and the same type of movement that brought us Spirou and evolved into what became Asterix.
Right. Well, also, most what we consider to be U.S. slice of life comics, they're cartoony as well, but they're not humorous cartoony.
Mm-hmm. Right, but they are minimalist in the same way.
If you see a slice of life comic here in the States that's drawn more realistically, like that one is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the best that I can identify this with, imagine that George Perez never went into superhero comics. That George he was Perez? Doing. Yeah, imagine that George Perez instead of doing a superhero comic, makes a comic about beer making families. That would be this.
Oh, okay, that's what you mean.
It's the same attention to detail of creating the 3D space in your head before making a continuous scene throughout the next 3 or 4 pages, and knowing where everything is in the room.
And the panels are probably a little more dense than most other artists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Makes sense.
All right, Sleepy, if you decide you want to come on, you got a link in Instagram. Anyway, moving on. Now the slice of life stuff and everything that kind of comes up, I always felt like it's like those traumatic or exciting moments or benchmark moments of somebody's life, even though they're supposed to be like slice of life, dull, something that just goes on in today. You know what I mean? So for whatever that guy's doing with that whole family and remember, I mean, I always feel like a slice of life is something you remember. You know what I mean? So I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe it's time to expand what slice of life is. Slice of life could just be like an ordinary family's day in 1888 or any other day or year or something. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, not much happened today. It was like that's a good day. Shoot.
Well, that one seems to be less autobiographical.
Yeah, less on man. There it is. That's what it is.
Right.
Nice. All right.
So
So
why is he not cooking dinner for the rest of us? Why just for his family? Man.
Anyway, so the next book I got here, is it my turn? Did you do one?
Oh,
Yeah, you
I
did.
have-
Yeah.
I have that or used to have it. One of the
Let me
two.
get up here. All right. So there's going to be one story out of this. Batman's Strangest Cases. That is a Neil Gaiman story. This is a DC Treasury edition, limited. And it reprints a whole bunch of Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams stories.
Do you mean Neil Gaiman or do you mean Neil Adams?
What did I say?
You said Neil Gaiman.
Oh, no, Neil Adams. Neil
Okay.
Adams.
I thought so. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, Neil Adams. Yeah. But anyway, I always thought Neil Adams was the first guy to really draw Robin where he actually kind of looked tough. And I think it's because he gave him evil eyes and a fist, you know. He always put him in a stance like he wanted to fight, you know. But
just like that, you want to fight too.
So anyway, the reason I like this story is that this was actually adapted on the Batman Adventures cartoon show back in the 90s. They just replaced one character.
I know which story you're talking
about. They replaced one character. Batman is chasing this guy, right? And Denny O'Neil always seems to write stories for some reason where I feel like it happens in Johnny Quest world. He still has this Boy Adventures 60 feel to him. I mean, it really does. I mean, seriously. Right. Anyway, it starts out with Batman, a great little shot here in the rain, lightning coming down. Mm-hmm. Batman's outside of Gotham chasing down this guy who's running across a bridge, running from him.
Right.
Okay. So, I mean, automatically let's throw you in there. And Neil Adams is being Neil Adams, you know, chasing the guy. Lots to read here. And Batman's sort of stopped by like this gargantuan guy. And not to have any other words going on, but it's a bunch of sideshow freaks. They're a traveling sideshow freak thing, like, you know, freaks. And they're telling Batman, get off him. He's one of us. And I'm pretty sure this guy came from him. But this is infamous because it has the character of Silboy. I remember hearing people, my stepdad's age, talking about this story and Silboy there. You know, and I could not believe that they put him in Batman Adventures. So, this, I mean, you talk about, I don't know any other story that's been like this before or after. The only thing I can think of is that 1930s movie Freaks, you know, One of Us.
Oh,
that
kind
of
movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if you like your Neil Adams and all that stuff, you talk about an interesting story about the only family that would take this boy in. So I would love to know where this story came from, where it came out. I mean, this is in the 70s that they're doing this, early 70s. I don't know if somebody I'm picturing them smoking I'm picturing Denny O'Neil hanging out, smoking a little pot, and that Freaks movie comes on at midnight. You know what I'm saying? I mean, seriously, you know. But I love that it was adapted when I was watching that. And that's why the Batman the Batman Adventures cartoon is so good. If they didn't know who Jack Kirby was or knew a little bit about comics, Bruce Timm made them go get a bunch of Jack Kirby comics and Batman comics and read them, and then they could work on them. Yeah,
they all knew who Jack Kirby.
That's what I mean. So the people who were like working on that show knew their Batman, and that's why I think the show is such a success. I mean, they even throw in the source material every now and then. When they brought in Ra's al Ghul and Neil Gaiman and Neil Adams, I heard at that time, Scott. Neil Adams says it's Ra's al Ghul, not this race stuff. He's got a problem with it. Anyway, when they brought that episode in of Ra's al Ghul, they knew it was a big deal and it was more cinematic. And I swear that felt like it was from the 60s. I felt like I was watching something that could have turned into Johnny Quest at any time on that Batman Adventures episode. So I like when I see something and I know where it came from. You know what I mean? I'm like, I got that, you know. So
yeah, if you live long enough, that happens to you a lot. It's like,
Well,
I know where they got that from.
not with the things I like. You know what I mean? Like it does. They don't. It's very nice to see something you like continue to get stuff right. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's like they just keep elevating themselves.
It's like I was watching, the Grey Ghost episode. I'm like, that's basically the Shadow.
Yeah, yeah, with Adam West doing the voice.
Right.
A little throwback to the original, and it was Bruce Wayne's hero when he was little. Yeah. Stuff like that. Love it. Who we on now?
Me. I got some. Wait a minute. Let me pull these out of here. I've talked about this before, but it's so good I've talked about it again. I have 3 issues so far, and a 4th one just came out, which I do not have yet.
Yes, Paolo, you all right, man? I know it's well after midnight now. You okay?
It's almost 1:30.
All right.
Okay.
I think we'll all just show our books and hop off here, man.
This is called Kong Crew.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
Publisher named Editions Carrette, by an artist named Eric, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of the last name. I think Terenguel. My God, this is just an artistic powerhouse. I mean, here's the back cover. Look at that. Just look at it. Just
that's fantastic. That's a movie poster, man.
Yes. Yeah. Basically, the story is Kong, instead of dying at the end of the movie, lives. And then the Isle of Manhattan reverts back to a primordial state, much like Skull Island. So not only do you have Kong there, but you have jungles starting to creep in, dinosaurs, things like that. And the army is trying to contain it and not let people in there and figure out, what's going on. That's the first page. Just look. Just freaking amazing artwork. Just crazy good. You can tell he's influenced by Dave. His storytelling reminds me a lot of Dave Stevens in terms, but Will Eisner, Milt Caniff, Kaluta. If you don't like that, I don't know what to tell you.
Back it up just a little bit, man. Just a little bit. Back it up from your camera just a touch. Gotcha. There we go, right there. Oh, wow. Yeah, now we can see the bridge and everything. Oh, it's fantastic.
So that's the first issue. The 4th one just came out. I don't have it yet. It's on its way over here from France as we speak in the mail. There's a good page of where the main character meets a bunch of people in New York City that he has no idea what they're doing there, but there's that. And I'm having a hard time getting this centered up, but
oh yeah.
I mean, just this book just kicked so much ass it broke its foot, Last page, one of the stories.
I'm glad it didn't lose its foot. Yeah.
Yeah. Dinosaurs in New York City with King Kong, with World War II fighter planes. What else do you need?
A blonde.
There is a blonde in there.
There we go. Now it's got everything.
Let's see what else in here.
It was beauty that killed the beast. No.
But I mean, I just cannot say enough good things about this book. It's just absolutely.
I gotta get around to getting it.
Gorgeous artwork. Kong fighting a giant snake.
Right out of the 30s movie.
Lots of airplanes, World War II. I mean, there's a shot of.
Guys, maybe I'm going nuts, but are you guys picking up any buzzing like it sounds like a lady's voice coming through?
No, I'm not.
All right.
But this is supposed to come out later on in a trade. Without the English version of the trade hasn't come out yet. It's available both in French and German. And the actual floppy comics are actually available in English. That's what these are. And there is an artist edition of it.
Nice. Paolo, what you got, man?
Well, since you showed us that nice black and white art, and
yeah, take that.
Yeah. So I got some Corrigan here.
Oh.
Secret Agent X9.
Al Williamson. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Al Williamson is one of mine and Tim's favorite artists.
yeah. And you showing congruent and talking about Dave Stevens.
Yeah, I mean that's Al Williams. There's heavy Al Williamson influence.
Yeah, there's that continuity here, there, and one thing that kind of drives what I like to collect and what I like to show is that desire to preserve the monsters from the past, like Al Williamson and these stories, especially because unfortunately we don't care enough about classic adventure comic strips like this one, and we should. It's very important to preserve this.
Yeah.
We get so lost in the sea of superheroes that we miss out on how to actually see where the storytelling is applied without the need for flashy costumes, because it's the same language, it's the same design language.
There should always be variety out there, man. There's always, always should be variety. Yeah.
And if you want a guy to draw a suit, then Al Williamson is your guy.
Yep.
Who is the better? Who drew the better fedora / Trilby? Williamson or Kirby? You know, Kirby's actually look like they were on top of your head. You know,
They're just different. I mean, they're different art styles.
I'm playing.
I don't know. You tell me.
I want to explain to Paolo. Have you seen the Al Williamson Star Wars comics?
I've seen a few. They don't usually show up here, but I've seen a few.
Okay, I tried to explain to somebody who wasn't familiar with Al Williamson once. They tried to explain to me what did I like about Al Williamson's art. It's like, take the character of Han Solo, take him off the page, put him on a movie screen, and he came from Al Williamson.
Chuck White's popped in here.
Mm-hmm.
Those strips from the early 20th century works of art.
Yeah, I have some IDW reprints of Secret Agent X9.
Yeah, I only bought the first volume. I know there's a bunch of them, but I'm very happy with having that one.
Yeah, I think there's 6 of them, and I have 5 of them, I believe.
Nice. All right. See, when Scott...
I do not know if Williamson ever inked Kirby. I'm not sure. I really don't know.
I want to say no, but there's so much out there between the 50s up into the early 80s where Kirby was sort of DC and Marvel, the Pacific Comics all over the place. But I mean, I think Wally Wood was his best inker, and you can barely find that
Williamson inked Frazetta.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because Williamson shared studios with Frazetta and Angelo Torres.
Yeah, was that what was the that wasn't the Shiny Knight stuff. The Shiny Knight that he I'm going blank on it. I'm going so blank on it. I know the stuff he inked. That's why it's killing me.
Yeah.
Man, it's out of left field. I haven't thought about that in forever. And I don't think maybe it was the Shiny Knight stuff that Frazetta did. I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure of that. I'm not real sure.
All right. So we're gonna go highbrow with the lowbrow. Okay. The Art Crumb coffee book, table art book and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And whenever you think of Crumb, you know, you think the psychedelic stuff, the political stuff, the sex stuff, the kink stuff, the egotistical stuff, just a lot of things that like we consider art, and it's coming from a very dark place, which is probably why it's art. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But the thing about it is people kind of forget that his brother was the one that made him keep drawing these comics when they were kids, treated it like a real business, right? Like bullied him and stuff, making him do it, act like a real editor or something in his own words, right? And we also know that he was working at the Hallmark card place drawing cards. You know what I mean? So what got me here showing that he's such a versatile artist and what his roots were. There's a part right off the bat, they start showing some of his actual comics that he still has. You know, Pogo, Little Lulu, you know, stuff I've never even heard of. Like
not things you normally
associate with him.
To, yeah. Robert Crumb, right?
Yeah, before the LSD and stuff, right? So he also is very sentimental, and he has tons of artwork that he kept that he and his brother did, or that his brother made him do. You also kind of get the idea, if you watch the Robert Crumb documentary, that the brother was the talented one out of the two. You know what I mean? So he takes these old comic strips that he and his brother did together, and he redraws them panel for
Okay.
panel.
Gotcha.
And it's fuzzy animals just on this high-spirited adventure that you can tell that it's for kids, but you can't believe kids did it so well because they just keep it going and you don't know what's coming next. And if you get this coffee book, he'll show you the page, and in the corner here on the side, you can compare it to the original page they did as kids back in the 50s. And there's nothing snuck in here that's perverted or LSD influenced or kink or has a little message or anything. It's completely fun and innocent and goes everywhere all at once. They're flying around on a magic carpet, then they end up on the moon, and they see a dinosaur attacking them out in the ocean. Then they end up on Saturn. Just a great little innocent little story.
Little in that regard.
Yeah, little aliens. And for them to have all those little influences of Walt Kelly books they were in Pogo and all that stuff that they were reading, they're not ripping those books off. That's what got me. I remember doing stuff like this with other people, other kids, and you can be like, you just read some John Byrne, didn't you? Oh shit, yeah. Stuff like that.
How'd you guess?
Yeah, none of that's in there. It's completely original. That's the difference. So yeah, a little crumb there. And then the rest of the book is the smut we all know him for. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
right.
All the crazy stuff, But he does have a panel in there towards the end. I think it was like a comic from the early 2000s or something that they put in this. And he's sitting there, and he's sitting there like in his little house, his mansion or something. But he's got a smoking robe on, and he's got his pet pig sitting beside of him while he's got the pipe sitting there reading the paper. And that's how I always sort of pictured me ending up. So it could still happen,
With a pet pig.
Not a pet pig. Yeah. So yeah, that's my book. That's the one I wanted to talk about. But yeah, that little innocent story, and that's right off the book. That's like the second thing in this collection of Crumb stuff over the years. Highly entertaining.
Cool.
And I got mine on sale, so maybe other people can find it on sale. I think it was like $9.99 or something at a Books A Million or something. So
it's a good price for a book that size.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, that was actually kind of fun. Different camera angles. Everybody got to stay on. Let me get off here. I'm sitting here squinting, looking at you guys. I'm like, I don't have to do that. Yeah, I think maybe we ought to like pop up with some comics just in case there's ever a lull in the other shows if I ever get back on them. So, what's on everybody's agenda tomorrow? Anything?
Work.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if I get to go to work or not. I'm still snowed in. I kind of looked out the window when I did my bathroom trip, and it's snowing again.
Yeah, I stocked up on groceries before all this came. So,
yeah, I kind of wish I'd gotten more steak.
I'm good.
Yeah, I wished I'd gotten more meat than I did soup. So, yeah. It looks like Andy Warhol's kitchen up there.
You just got the wrong type of soup.
That's about it. Well, guys, that's all I got. Y'all got anything else you want to talk about or show?
Not that I can think of. That one comic that Terrence showed on his show the other day. I can't remember the title of it, but Pat Boyette did the cover, and it had work by Alex Toth and Wally Wood. I want to get that. That looked really interesting.
Oh, okay. What show was that? I can't think of what.
It is LaRossa's, the floating chat that they have on
Comic Crack, Sleepy Reader, and LaRossa.
Yeah.
Okay. Got you. Okay. All right.
I don't remember the title of the book, but it looked interesting.
Yeah. Well, thanks for everybody that snuck in here and stuck around and all the great feedback here.
Yeah.
So great stuff here, man. So everybody have a good night. Y'all want to say bye?
Bye.
The awkward goodbyes. The awkward ending of the show.
Bye.
Nice.